ก่อน
about free and open source in Thailand. And actually what we really want to discuss, I just put up a couple of points, but just ignore them. They're just for background. Like if you want to give your input, maybe you get some ideas there. We would really want to like to discuss how we can make FOSS successful in Thailand.
Yeah, I think this is a topic like Muriel and I have been quite interested in for a while. But I mean, as you can see, we're foreigners in Thailand, so we're quite curious, especially to get some input from Thai people. What's your opinion? Like, do you use FOSS software? Do you not like it? Why? Why not? So I guess we just want to open up the floor for people's comments.
Yeah. So
just to make sure, what does FOSS stand for?
FOSS is free and open source software. Anyone in here doesn't know what it is? Okay, so yeah, as we want to try discuss how to make FOSS successful in Thailand, maybe just have a quick look at the impediments. We have kind of discussed that yesterday, and I have put them together in some way. So yeah. So anyone has any ideas? What can we do?
I mean, what makes you certain that there's even a problem?
Well, actually, I only have two sources. One is the Linux kernel development, where I have been at the Linux Developer Conference in Beijing in February this year, and I talked to all the kernel developers, and they just say there's very, very little contribution to FOSS. So people seem to use it, and in China they will even kind of violate the GPL by taking the kernel, modifying it for embedded devices, but not opening their code. So Linux kernel and also the GNOME project has only very, very little contribution from Asia. But we know there are a lot of users out there.
You're talking about FOSS in terms of people participating in developing it, or just in terms of people using it?
People participating in the community. It could be box, just adding a box to the box tracking tool, or it could be participating in IRC channel or mailing list. Any kind of participation. I mean, code would be cool, but it doesn't have to be code. It can be anything, documentation,
So one example of a FOSS project that got participation is the Mozilla, right? How did the Mozilla internationalization effort happen and come about? Who did that?
In Thailand or
In Thailand?
So Mozilla has always been focused on internationalization and localization, and our process is completely open. So anybody can volunteer, anyone can participate. I'm not sure exactly how the Thai team first came together. I know that one of the very first contributors was is a graduate student who's currently in England, and he had created a localization pack, a separate pack that you have to add to Firefox 2 to get Thai to work. But yeah, I don't know the exact situation for how the Thai team came together, but I think they were organizers of the first BarCamp, and they knew that Firefox 3 would support Thai, and so they said we want to make a Thai version. I think that's the story. There was a presentation yesterday about this actually. It was in Thai, so I couldn't understand it.
For me, the Thai, the biggest barrier is the language. The biggest barrier is the language, and you know, Thai has a characteristic that we're afraid or we're shy or to ask or to do something stupid, and just like that.
Many people say Japanese are very shy and don't want to make mistakes. So it's not only Thai people. And I think the important thing, in Japanese open source, there are many, not many, but there are some key people who are helping to translate documents from English into Japanese in the wikis and, yeah. Thank.
How did the Thai team happen for Mozilla? We're trying to figure out how we can get people to participate in open source projects here.
We love Firefox. That's it. No, because can I speak in Thai? Well, please tell me translate.
Okay.
Well, the beginning of Firefox Thai team is back. Oh, back about the BarCamp Bangkok one, that we met many friends that we think that we are thinking in the same way, both of open source software and maybe lifestyle. And the guy named Art, code name, screen name back BSET, is very keen on open source software activity. So he called for a Mozilla Firefox Bugathon to fix all Thai bugs in Mozilla's Bugzilla. And at that time, sorry, it's about 15 people come to Bugathon and spend about 12 hours for fixing Firefox bugs. And after that, I'm not sure who, but someone realized that we should push Mozilla Firefox Thai build to be an official build. So fortunately, after Bugathon on March, 2 weeks after Bugathon is Thai long weekend. We have Songkran festival, so we have about 5 days holiday. 5-day holiday. So I've called everybody in Bugathon to my place and start, we call Firefox Thai localization sprint. And we spend those 5 days translate the whole navigation UI and some of help files. And at that time, Ken kind of found us on the internet. Right, Ken? Yeah, found on the internet. Is I don't know, maybe Google Fortune, something like that. And yeah, he emailed us to the team that about he will push Thai to be official in Firefox 3. And at that time we hope we can do it before 3.0 launch on June, but it's about we drunk too much, play game too much, so it's not finished on time. But yeah, but it's almost done, but it's not that good. So we decide to we stop at that time, but we will be back to work on it sometime if we have another long weekend.
you were saying, for example, that you thought many Thai people, they felt shy to contribute. Do you think that Thai developers feel more comfortable in doing like a group sprint, like something together that's more like fun than just, oh, I'm going to sit at home by myself and write some open source software? Do you think this style of working together is more encouraging for Thai developers?
Yeah, of course. I think most of Thai developers right now, they think the open source software is a free software, and they always think, yeah, I'm not that good on programming, I'm not a hacker, so I can't read those lines of code. I can't understand what they're doing. But one thing I want to say is, if you want to participate to FOSS, so open source software activities, it's not about programming only. It's a lot of work you can do. For example, localization, translation. You don't need to have a programming knowledge. You just know how to read English and translate it to understandable Thai. And yeah, and another one, you can be supporter. Something like you convince your friend to use open source software, for example, Firefox. Yeah, and that is it. What I want to tell Thai people or everybody in the rest of the world, that don't be shy. Is many things you can do with open source software.
One thing I want to say. Yeah, I just think for contributing to open source software, people see it as a all or nothing sort of situation, where either you have to write a patch for the Linux kernel or nothing. Start small. Localization. It's relatively easy to do. Documentation. Pick something really small. Start there. And the other thing about the social thing, beer and open source go together well. So, get your buddies together, drink, and do a localization sprint.
So who of the Thai people in here are too shy to participate in open source? Okay, so why are you shy, or what's your problem?
Actually, I was away in France when they were translating, and Bhagathon also. And when there was the last sprint, I was in exam, but I'll be translating some of the other stuff like sumo. Yeah.
Anyone else too shy or has other reasons for not contributing?
The problem is I have to work for a living, and doing this is no money in there.
He has to do this for a living, and there is no money in FOSS.
Yeah, okay, but I want to say one thing, that everybody in Firefox team has full-time work. And yeah, play with open source software, you no need to think about the money. It's about the passion. It's about, just think this way, you help the world.
So I guess I have a question for you. Sorry to single you out, but so you say you feel a bit shy to contribute. Like, is there anything?
Not me, but I see many times they are afraid of asking. They are afraid of asking questions, doing code contributions, or just the real barrier is the English, because we're not good in English, as you can see. Yeah, that's the main point. And
Do you have an idea about what would encourage more Thai developers to get involved to help solve that?
first we need a Thai community. Someone has to raise a community in Thai, and he must be the leader, and he must be the leader to to lead everything, and be the what do you call it, I'm not sure anyway ก็
Let me give you an example. Do you know Yukihiro Matsumoto? So his English is not very good. I mean, his written English is okay, but his spoken English is not that good. And I think he's seen as a leader in languages and certainly in open source. I agree. Language is a barrier. It is a real barrier, of course, especially in Asia. But it's a barrier. Maybe in open source, it's less of a barrier because the global language is code, is programming. It is a language of the, is the computer language. So I agree with you, but we all must, I think, try harder.
I believe that one thing is really about, okay, besides language, one thing is really about culture. Thailand, Thai, or I would say ASEAN people have been trained from our educational system that you have to be modest. You are not going to speak if you are not absolutely sure that you are going to be correct.
But I think the thing is changing now.
Yeah, that.